Today on Locked On Penguins, Erik Karlsson plays the hero once again. Sidney Crosby and Tristan Jarry shine in a victory. And it's Wednesday, so we're going to give out our MVP of the week for Warrior Helmet Wednesday. All that and more on this edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp, alongside the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. You can follow Hunter's Twitter account at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's Twitter a follow at LO_Penguins. And of course, we appreciate you, as always, making us part of your daily routine. Remember that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube and the Roku channel. And if you follow us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that notification button so you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. The Pittsburgh Penguins get a little bit of revenge on the Vegas Golden Knights on Tuesday night at PPG Paints Arena, a 3-2 overtime victory by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Hunter, you and I were having a little bit of a discussion before we hit record on this episode. And at least once a season, I have a game where I turn into the ultimate hockey caveman. And I look at the analytics, I look at the stats, and I go, shut up, nerds, and watch the game. Because when you look at the stats from last night, whether it's the top line numbers, whether you jump onto Natural Stat Trick or Money Puck or wherever you get your analytics, and all signs point to the Penguins got their butts kicked, but still won a game. And I am going to disagree. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the Penguins played a great game. They were the better team all night, and they got a much-deserved victory. No, Vegas was the better team. Vegas played very well, but I think the Penguins did too. I know that they got outshot by a significant margin, both overall, but when you really dive into it, they got outshot by a wide margin in the third period, 19-4, with the total shots being 37-17 Las Vegas. But through the first period, Vegas outshoots the Penguins 9-4. Second period, Vegas outshoots the Penguins 9-8. And then you look at the analytics of it. I'm looking at Natural Stat Trick. Overall for the game, it says the Penguins had only 33% of the shot attempts to Vegas's 66. And that is at 5-on-5, I might add. And then at 5-on-5, Vegas has 12 high danger chances to the Penguins 6. This is how I want to lay this out for people. I think last night was a classic game where Vegas went a little Carolina Corsies on us. They possessed the puck. They tried to shoot it from everywhere. And sometimes they got it on net. Sometimes it got blocked. Penguins blocked a lot of shots last night. So did Vegas, for that matter. And they just held possession in the Penguins zone and didn't do a whole lot with it. The Penguins, on the other hand, when they got chances, they made the most of it, including overtime. Less than a minute into overtime, Erik Karlsson ends the game. Ilya Samsonov, man, that was just a straight up whiff. But overall, I'm not, like I said, not going to pretend like the Penguins played some flawless game and were great, but I liked their effort. They took Vegas's best punches. They pulled themselves up off the mat and were able to fight back. As we always say, Hunter, this team may not be very good, but they fight.
They definitely do. And I'll agree with you to a certain extent. My biggest thing is the Penguins hardly had the puck all game. Like, Vegas was dominating them, it felt like, from start to finish, especially at 5-on-5. That third period, especially, Pat, like, they were just skating the Penguins off the rink. The only reason why that game went to overtime was the play of Tristan Jarry, and that's where I want to start with my thoughts for this game. Tristan Jarry, once again, was sensational in this one. That's 2 games in a row. He's come up from Wilkes-Barre, and he's been one of the biggest reasons why the Penguins have won. I mean, he was making timely save after timely save in the third period. He was doing that in the first 2 periods, not as much as he did in the third, but he was still making some really good saves in the first 2 periods. And you look at the numbers from last night, he was above water in goals saved above expected after 2.72 goals saved above expected against Minnesota, Pat. He was at 1 last night. So over his last 2 games, he's at almost 4 goals saved above expected. Last 2 starts, really nice stuff. And it's so funny that now, of all times, he wants to do this, Pat. Right when they're basically buried, out of the playoff race, looks like they're gunning for a top 5 pick. Tristan Jarry's like, you know what? No, I'm going to turn back the clock a few years ago where I had that really nice first half. Remember the year that he got hurt, he broke his foot, Pat, that when he had that really nice first half of the season before he breaking his foot and then was out for basically that entire series against the Rangers outside of game 7. These last 2 games, it looks like that version of Jarry, the first half of that season when he was playing really well. And again, man, good for him. Better late than never. It's just funny that, hey, this is when he's doing it right now. But as I tweeted last night as well, isn't it so funny how good he looks when A, he's playing confident, and B, he's challenging shooters. You saw that on display once again. His movement, I also thought, was really good. He wasn't playing too deep in his crease. Like when he's really struggling, and I mean really struggling, people, he is doing all of those bad habits. Last 2 games, though, he has not, and we have to give credit where credit is due, even though, again, it is funny that he is doing this when the team is all but buried.
Yeah, it is. And I know that in a 3-2 overtime victory, writers are probably going to want to at least give the losing team a star of the 3 stars, and that ended up going to Noah Hannafin. But I think Jarry was a little bit robbed of being the 3rd star. 35 saves on 37 shots.
He could have been the first star.
What?
He could have been the first star.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said he was. I was like, oh, did I read that wrong?
No.
But yeah, I mean, 35 saves. I can't fault him for either goal. I know we were texting about it during the game, and the power play goal by Dorofeyev looked like you should have been a save. But when you look back at that goal, that was a 93-mile-an-hour one-timer, not a slap shot, a one-timer. And he got across maybe a millisecond too late. But when someone can get that hard of a shot off in motion, I challenge just about any goalie to make that save. And then the tying goal with 6 seconds remaining by Noah Hannafin, an elite screen by Tomas Hertl. Jarry had absolutely zero chance at that one. He
didn't even move, by the way. He literally just stood there.
And there was nothing he could do.
Yeah.
Hertl completely took away his vision. And I'll give this much too. The Penguins did play well defensively. And even in that moment, they were doing all they could to move him. Vegas just had the right puck movement at the right time and got the shot off from Hannafin at the exact right moment. That they were in position. They were where they needed to be. It just, everything worked right for Vegas on that tying goal. But then we'll talk about him in the second segment. Carlson wins it in overtime. Before we get to Carlson, what an effort by the captain, Sidney Crosby. Yes, he scores 2 goals. Ho-hum. He is coming real close to clinching that next record-breaking point per game season. But for me, it was more than just the 2 goals. He was everywhere last night, doing everything, whether it was defensively, whether it was on the forecheck. He was head and shoulders, without any equal, the best player on the ice last night.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that was another vintage Sidney Crosby performance, and it looked like he was playing on easy mode all night long, loading up EA Sports NHL 24 and just knifing through guys left and right. The first goal I especially love because Kevin Hayes protecting the puck like a prime Sidney Crosby, going all the way around the world, by the way, gets it to Raquel. Beautiful feed to Crosby. He goes right to the net. It's like we talked about after the Minnesota game. They're finally starting to get back to the high danger areas on the power play after the unit had been really struggling for the past few weeks. And you're now seeing the rewards. You go to the net, you get to the high danger areas. Oh, look, you're going to score goals. You saw that with Evgeny Malkin, and now you saw this with Sidney Crosby. And then with Crosby's second goal, it was so funny because I'm watching the game, and Vegas, the seas just parted. They're giving him all this time and space. And I'm like, I know he's a bit older now, but that is certainly a choice that you decided to make there, Vegas. Like, why are you letting him come in like this and fire an unimpeded shot where you're not even trying to block it? And Crosby's like, okay, you're going to give me this time and space. Thank you. And he makes no mistake with that one. There was a play later in the game where he absolutely dusted Braden McNabb, went right around him, had a beautiful feed for almost assist on that one. A bit in the third period, he had a beautiful feed to Brian Russ that hopped just over his stick. He was everywhere last night, and he led the Penguins in terms of average game score, underlying numbers, more than matched the eye test last night. One of his best performances of the season. He gets points 69, nice by the way, and 70. So we're getting even closer to him breaking Wayne Gretzky's point per game record, and I can't wait because I think he's going to do it.
I'm right there with you. He is certainly on pace to do it. The other thing that is funny to me about his second goal is it feels like a handful of times every season, teams forget that, yeah, Sidney Crosby is the ultimate fourth line grinder, the greatest to ever do it. And he's one of the best playmakers of all time. But a handful of times a season, teams forget he has a pretty damn good shot too.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not Alex Ovechkin. It's not Steven Stamkos level, but he still can fire the thing. And a couple times a year, teams will just be like, give Sid the shot. It's fine. Oh, damn, he sniped us, didn't he? So that was that moment on his second goal where Vegas was like, just give him the room. He'll shoot it. He won't score. And then he snipes one. So elite effort by the captain. He's continuing to do this at 37. And I mean, no signs of slowing down just yet. Another great season for him. But another player who I thought had a pretty okay game, including going ahead and calling game, was defenseman Erik Karlsson. We'll get into his play, the rest of the game, and more when we come back. But before we do that, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the nets. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back into the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, as always, alongside Hunter Hodes, and Erik Karlsson calls game. Let's do it this way, Hunter. Let's start with the negative from this goal. What are you doing, Ilya Samsonov? What are you doing?
That was bad, man. Like, I'm sorry. You can't whiff on that. Like, after watching the replay several times, it was a great release from Carlson. I love his shot. I want him to utilize it more because I think it's one of the better shots on the Penguins, in my opinion. But Samsonov just totally whiffed on that. He easily could have made that save, but he stuck his glove out and just totally whiffed on it.
Yeah, it was a complete whiff. I will say this. One very good shot by Erik Karlsson. And this is where I can give a little bit of space to Samsonov for missing it. That's a really well-placed shot because as a goaltender, you have to make the decision in that moment whether you're going to stand up or go down into the butterfly, because that's right at that thigh/knee area where, yeah, you can probably reach down with your glove hand and snag it, but it's probably a higher percentage if you go down into the butterfly and catch it in that way. But he kind of didn't make a decision on it. He obviously was standing up when the goal went in, and you could kind of tell in his reaction that he didn't know which would be the better to do, and that leads to Karlsson's goal because it slips right under his glove into the net, maybe 3-4 feet max off the ice. He did not whip this one high. He just had it a little bit off the ice. It beats Samsonov, but away from the overtime goal, outside of that one moment in the second period on the power play where his controller just kind of disconnected and he didn't do anything to keep the EA Sports NHL references going, he got the little message at the bottom of the screen that said, controller disconnected, please reconnect mid-game. But outside of that, I liked his game last night. He was very decisive with the puck. He didn't make a ton of ill-advised pinches. When he jumped into the play, he either did it at a smart moment that continued the pressure, or he got back into the play. It's another example of when Erik Karlsson plays the game that he should be playing, he's one of the more valuable players on this team.
100%. I mean, no matter what, I still think he is one of the more valuable players on this team because he is still driving offense. Like, yeah, to start the year, I don't think he was driving offense as much, but right when that Thanksgiving time came around, that's when he started to get back to his roots, start driving offense. And yeah, has he been inconsistent at times? Sure, but he's still at least able to drive offense for this team. I know they're at the bottom of the standings in the Eastern Conference, but he still had, once again, a really good performance last night. I thought he was really good at breaking the puck out with control. He was even good in his own zone, and we know that's not his game. Great shot there to win the game. And hey, man, the Penguins continue to play really well in 3-on-3 overtime this year, Pat. If you'll recall, one of my bold predictions before the season was that they would finish this season above 500 in 3-on-3 overtime play. Well, you know what? They're getting that much closer to doing it, my friend. They have now won 5 of the last 7 games that were decided in overtime. And by the way, for Carlson, amazing stat by Bob Grove. If you're not following him on Twitter or any social media, like, what are you doing, by the way? Of the Penguins' last 12 regular season overtime goals, Carlson has scored 3 of them. He's also set up 4. So he has factored in on 7 of the last 12 regular season OT goals for the Penguins. He's been sensational in 3-on-3. Another reason to me why they have turned around their 3-on-3 play this year. Again, it is funny. Last year, 3-on-3 play and the power play really sunk them. It sunk their chances on making the playoffs. This year, their 3-on-3 play has been a lot better. Their power play has been a lot better for most of the season, but they're just far worse in the standings because of goaltending, and they're playing their own zone and a couple other things as well. But it is funny that they've been able to at least correct 2 of the things from last year, but it hasn't mattered. But again, loved Erik Karlsson's game. You know who I also want to shout out? How about that Vladislav Kolyachonok? I thought he played, once again, really sound hockey last night. I know it is only a few games, but last night with Chris Letang, they had an expected goals percentage of 81% at 5-on-5 per money puck. Great underlying numbers. I thought Kolyachonok, he has a really active stick, really sound gap control. He makes good decisions with the puck. He continues to utilize his speed. The way that he was able to get back to cut off a little bit of a mini breakaway and not really allow Tristan Jarry to see a great scoring chance. There's a play, I believe that was in the second period. Really nice stuff. I just like his overall game right now, and I want to see more from him.
The play that you're referring to where he stops a partial breakaway,
Yes.
Let's not lose sight of who it was that he caught up with to stop that. It was Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
Jack Eichel, and I know because of all of the drama that happened with Buffalo, with Vegas being Vegas and doing the most Vegas things they do, Jack Eichel is still an absolutely elite player. I don't know how or why he continues to fly as under the radar as he does, but Jack Eichel is a full, complete player. Speed, strength, scoring touch, can make plays, can be a good playmaker. And Kolyachonok caught up to him like it was nothing. I mean, and now it might have been near the end of a shift for Jack Eichel. I'm not entirely sure on that, but Jack Eichel is in no world a slow player. In fact, I'd say he is one of the faster skaters in the NHL. And Kolyachonok was like, all right, I got you. And did he catch him 100%? No, he didn't catch him and suddenly turn it into a one-on-one, but he was able to back pressure him enough that it broke up what should have been a very good scoring chance for Vegas. And the other thing he did last night, just awful puck luck for him. He gets that chance near the end of the second right in front. Puck's bobbling on him a little bit. And I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and find it. I think in one shot, he won a game of 3-bar because it looked like it hit the left post, the crossbar and the right post and didn't go in. Now, some of that was the fact that the puck was jumping everywhere, but he got enough on it that it beat Samsonov, but it seemed to hit all 3 posts in one try. So rotten puck luck for him. Should have been his first goal as a Penguin.
He's a Penguin now, man. He's a Penguin with how horrible their finishing has been for the last few years. I know he didn't score there, but you know what, Pat? He's a Penguin.
Oh yeah, that is your welcome to the Penguins moment when an A++ chance somehow doesn't go in. So welcome to the Penguins, my good friend. A couple other things I want to add before we head to break and give out our Warrior helmet for this week. So I might have a surprise one for people, so stay tuned for that. But to your point about 3-on-3 overtime, the thing that I have noticed this season, you got to give some credit to Mike Sullivan because he's doing a really good job at matching 3-on-3 units and getting the right players on the ice at the right time. If you notice, one of their most recent 3-on-3 victories over the Flyers, he, at the very least, in consultation, I would say, with some of the players on the ice, realized they had an opportunity to change, and Malkin and Letang were able to basically get a free 2-on-1 because the Flyers were caught asleep. And the other thing that the Penguins are doing, and you can attribute it to the players, you can attribute it to coaching, they're doing a really good job of puck possession to start overtime. They're not giving up the puck to start the overtime period. They're winning faceoffs. They're holding on to the puck. And yeah, they're doing the annoying thing that a lot of teams do now where they're just cycling back. And if they don't like what they see, they're holding on to it. But at this point, that's just what you have to do in 3-on-3 overtime, because unfortunately that's the way of that period being played now. And you got to take advantage of it. You have to play it the way it needs to be played in order to get the victories. And they're doing that. Last quick shout out I want to give. And it's, again, it gets into what I said in the intro of Hockey Caveman comes out from time to time and has to get some sunshine. So I got to give a shout out to Boko Imama, because if we know one thing about Vegas, yeah, they can score. Yeah, they're fast, but they are bullies. Oh, yeah. And he stood up and said, all right, you guys want to play a little bully ball? I'm going to throw hits right back. I'm going to get in your kitchen and I am going to play physical. And he had a shift. I believe it was in the second period where I think it was in a matter of 15 seconds. He threw at least 3 hits. And you could kind of see the reaction from Vegas players of like, we're playing Pittsburgh, right? Like that, this isn't what Pittsburgh does. And he was just there and the crowd was fired up for it. So I know in the long run, it doesn't mean a ton to a team, but hey, we are fully in. This team is not making the playoffs. Play some entertaining hockey. And if you got a guy who is going to go out there, throw the big hit and get the crowd into it, all the power to you.
Do you remember Brooks Orpik basically doing the same thing to the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup final? It was a very mini version of that from Boko Imama, but that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. So, I mean, granted, if and when this team gets back to contention, I know that he's not signed for any sort of long term. Yeah. I don't know if he fits into the roster, but right now for where this team is, he's bringing energy. He's bringing physicality. I think more than anything, again, given where this team is and where it's headed for the rest of this season, if I'm Kyle Dubas and Mike Sullivan, maybe look at some short-term apartments in Pittsburgh, Boko, because I don't think you're going anywhere anytime soon. But that is going to do it for our middle segment and the recap of the Penguins' 3-2 victory over the Vegas Golden Knights in overtime. When we come back, it is Wednesday, my dudes. That means it is time to give out our weekly MVP award as part of Warrior Helmet Wednesday. We will do that when we return right after this, so stick with us. But before we do that, we got to tell you about the last sponsor of the day, and that is Indeed. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. So how can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored job post puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Hiring the right people, it's very important. And while it might not have been Indeed, when Hunter Hodes was in need of a co-host for Locked On Penguins, he found, in my opinion, the right candidate to be the co-host of Locked On Penguins, and here I am. Now, I have said it in the Indeed ad before. I have not used it as a business owner or someone looking to hire, but I have used it as someone on the job hunt. It got me several interviews, including getting me connected with my current employer. It is a fantastic service. It does everything you need and helps you find the job that you need. So now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, all you need is Indeed. All right, we're back here for the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp alongside Hunter Hodes as always. And it's Wednesday. That means it's time for Hunter and I to give out our Warrior helmet for our MVP of the week. If you are new to the show, we do this every Wednesday. It is our little homage to the 2016 Stanley Cup winning Pittsburgh Penguins. When they would win a game during that season, in the locker room, the players would hand out their Player of the Game award, which was a Warrior helmet. So that's us paying a little bit of a tribute to one of the best teams in the history of the Pittsburgh Penguins. If you don't know, we this season have given it only to players, but it's not exclusively limited to players. It can be a coach, it can be a manager, hell, it can even be you, the fans. So Hunter, like I said, I might go a little off board with today's, so I am going to give you the floor to give your pick for Warrior Helmet Wednesday.
Well, I have a feeling of who Pat is going to take based on these last two games. He kind of hinted at it this morning. That's a hint to everyone to keep listening, at least for the final few minutes of the show. But for me, yes, people, I am going to go a little bit basic here. My Warrior helmet will go to Sidney Crosby for his last two performances. 4 points in his last two games. If you go for the last week, 4 points in his last three games. He was absolutely amazing against Minnesota on Sunday. Gets the 2 goals, including the empty netter. He also had 2 goals once again against Vegas. He was sensational in that game, all over the ice, playing on easy mode in EA Sports NHL 24 and 25 now. Basically, almost forgot what year it was for a second. You know what? Eat Arby's, people. We're at the end of the show here. It's okay. So EA Sports NHL 25, you can say EA Sports NHL 26. Whatever. I said it a couple times early in the show. Say it again here. But he gets my Warrior helmet for this week. I thought he was sensational once again. I know this team is very low in the standings, but that guy does not quit. He never will. Doesn't matter where they are in the standings. He is going to play his tail off every single night. And you've seen that on display throughout this week. Once again, Sidney Crosby gets my Warrior helmet. And I think I know where you are going for this one.
You just might, but I can't totally disagree with Sid. It was another elite week for him. You look at the way he's played, and it's not just the statistics. He looks like Sidney Crosby. He is just continuing to be one of the best, if not the best player on the ice in the games he's involved in. And it's just, you have to marvel at it that he's still doing this. But I think you know, Hunter, who I am going with, and prepare your tomatoes. Prepare your angry comments. Again, this is an MVP award just for the week. It's not for the season. It's not an endorsement of everything he's done, but I have to give it to Tristan Jarry. He has had a very good week. 2 wins. He has only given up 3 goals on 67 shots against, 967 save percentage against Minnesota, 946 against the Golden Knights. I understand we talked about it with the Minnesota game. They are without a lot of their big guns, so he didn't have a lot of challenges realistically against Minnesota. But to follow up that game with a big win against the Golden Knights, especially in the third period, where the only goal he gives up was an elite screen from Tomas Hertl, and he makes 18 saves in a period. You really have to tip your cap. Now, the challenge becomes, can he continue to string this together? Can this be rehabilitation? Can he start to look like a starting goaltender again? I remain extremely skeptical about that. But at the very least, since being brought back to the NHL in 2 starts. He has been very good. And yeah, we know we want this team to get a better pick, but I keep texting it to you and I keep saying it on social media. Bump up that value. Bump up that value. Make some poor GM think I can fix them. But I liked his game the last 2 starts, and so I got to give him a Warrior helmet for this week.
Hey, we thought he was going to be the tank commander coming up. He's been anything but. Do we need to put Alex Nedeljkovic in so he can be the tank commander? Hey, who's to say at this point, man?
But yeah, I mean, overall, I liked his game. I liked his 2 starts. We'll see where he goes from here. The challenge, as always, is stringing together consistency. And we know for the past couple of years, he's really struggled with that. But that is going to do it for the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. Hunter and I will be back with a brand new episode for you on Thursday. We will get you set for the game against the St. Louis Blues, as well as go over anything else that may happen between now and then. But for Hunter Hodes, I'm Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will be back on Thursday.